Okay, welcome back. In this tutorial, we are going to start writing the JavaScript code to give this game the functionality. So working on the JavaScript logic over the next one or two tutorials is what we have to look forward to. So there's a few things we need to do. We know that if the user clicks on a button, we want to listen out for that user click. So we know we're going to have to select the buttons using the document object model and then listen out for that user event. We know that we're going to have to override the text output here, get ready, to whatever the user selected, the get ready for whatever the computer choice was, and of course their result as well. Okay, so that is something that we're going to have to do. So what we can do in this tutorial is first of all start off with these selectors. Okay, so we'll start with the selectors. So first of all, I want to get the user choice. Okay, so the user choice we've stored in the we're going to have to give that an ID. My apologies. So what we'll do is we'll say get ready. We'll have an ID of user choice text output. And then for the computer choice ID, we'll say this is the computer choice text output. Okay. So now what I want to do inside of JavaScript is get selectors for those. So first of all, we'll say const or let, we'll say user choice text is equal to document dot get element by ID. And we just want to pass in the ID we've created there. And that was user choice text output. Okay. Because we know we're going to have to override the value of that text with whatever the user selected. Let's do the same now for the computer text. So we'll say const, we'll say computer choice text, note the use of camel case there, and we'll say document.get element by ID, and that one was computer choice text output. Okay, awesome. And then what we need to do as well is the result output text. There's nothing there so far, so we can do that. You know what we'll do actually? We'll make the result a H2. So results is a H2. Let me just refresh. So we've got a result there now. And what I will do is just change this to be a paragraph. My apologies for that. So we've changed that to be a paragraph. And then we'll just take the result output text and we'll store that in a variable as well. So we'll call that result output text. So we'll say let result or const output text be equal to document.get element by ID. And we're just passing in result output text there. So hopefully now we've used the document object model to get essentially this paragraph, that paragraph, and that paragraph, and we've stored them in our various variables. And what we can do then is actually manipulate them, overriding the text based on what the user selected. So eventually when we select rock, that'll override the user text, the computer choice will be generated and updated there, and then we'll have some sort of result as well. One last thing, for the result, let's just say get ready. So we'll just do the same as above. So now we have get ready. Let's just save and refresh, and then we'll dive into the JavaScript now. Awesome. Okay. What I want to do now is I want to get a reference to the buttons. So we'll say const, and I'm going to call them choice buttons, okay? Because remember, they're buttons and the user has a choice. And what we're going to do is we're going to use query selector. So the buttons all have this class of choice button. So if I just copy and paste, we're going to say document.query selector. And remember, when we use get element by ID, this inbuilt method in JavaScript knows it is expecting an ID, but query selector all, essentially, you could be looking out for different types. So we just want to confirm it's a class. So just use dot notation to let it know we're working with a class, okay? So it's a class called choice button. And then what I'll do is on the choice buttons, okay? So I'm going to say choice buttons I've typed and that took a while, Visual Studio Code. What I want to do is I want to use the for each, okay? So for each is an inbuilt method in JavaScript, and I'm going to pass in what I want to call button, okay? So for each button, what I want to do is I just want to essentially add an event listener on that button. So I'm going to say button dot add event listener. So I'm adding an event listener to each button. And for each button, what type of event am I listening out for? I want to listen out for a click, okay? And when the user clicks on the button, I just want to run an arrow function. And all I want to do is just log out to the console, clicked. And the reason I'm doing that is I just want to make sure that the buttons are all working for us. So just to explain what I'm doing here, let's just see if this works. I hope it does, or this will be embarrassing. Click, click, click. Nope. Okay, what have I done wrong? Okay, const choice buttons equal document.query selector all choice button. Okay. Choice buttons dot for each button. We're going to basically say button dot add event listener click, and then console dot log clicked. That should be working. I don't know why that's not working. Hang on, hang on. Console.log choice buttons. Nothing's working at all. What the hell? It's like my code is just like, what the hell is going on here? Okay, oops, not Dell. All right, let me just alert. Let me just console.log test. Console.log test. Sorry about this, guys. Oh, wow. Something has gone totally wrong here. I don't know. My code looks good. Oh, hang on. Am I even linking to the JavaScript file? Ah, okay. That's what I've done wrong. I'm not even linking to the JavaScript file. Okay, script. Sorry about that, friends. Okay, and then we're looking for script.js. Okay, apologies for that. I'm so sorry. We're going to keep going. So if I refresh now, we get test. Okay, right. So that's good. Apologies for that. Okay, so what I've done, just to recap, is I've basically grabbed using a document object model, the user choice text, computer choice, etc. I've logged out the choice buttons, okay? So that's why we see the node list there. So we don't need to worry about that. Let's just delete that. And now hopefully this will work. Basically, if I just refresh, when I click on a button, it should work. Clicked, clicked, clicked. Okay, we're back in action. Now, instead of just logging out clicked, what we can do is we can actually access the button's text content. So if I just delete that string there, if I say button.text content, if I save and refresh, we get rock, paper, scissors. Okay, that's awesome. Now what we can do is, instead of just logging out the text content of whatever the user clicked, why don't we actually just maybe log out something like user choice, okay? But before we do that, what we could do is we could create a variable called user choice, and then assign that the value of whatever the user selected. So somewhere we know we're going to have to keep track of whatever the user choice was. So what we could do is we could create a variable. We can say let user choice be equal to, okay? And what we'll do is we'll access that text content. So we'll say button.text content, okay? And then we'll just log out to the console. Is we'll say user choice, comment, and then log out the user choice variable, okay? So let me just talk through what's happening here. Basically what's happening is as follows. When the user clicks on the buttons, okay, remember we've stored them in a class, okay? So we have choice buttons is equal to document.querySelector_all choice button. So we've got all of our buttons, okay? We use for each. So for each button, we're adding an event listener. We're saying button.add event listener. We're listening out for a user click, okay? And we saw that worked a moment ago. If we click rock, we see rock. If we click paper, we see paper. So what we're doing is we're accessing the button's text content, whatever was chosen. We're storing it in the variable user choice. And now all we're doing here is just logging out the user choice. So if I save and refresh, if I click rock, the user choice was rock, paper, user choice was paper, and scissors, the user choice was scissors. So that's awesome. Now what we need to do is we actually need to essentially create a variable that stores the computer choice. So that's what we're going to do now. So what we can do is we can say let computer choice, and that's going to be equal to something. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to create a function up here. We'll do a function declaration. And this is going to essentially generate the computer's choice. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll use the function keyword. So we'll say function and we'll say generate computer choice. It's going to be a function that is not passed in any arguments. So what we'll do is we'll just say console.log computer choice. Okay, just want to make sure that when we call or invoke the function, we're doing something. So right before we basically set the computer choice, let's just call or invoke the generate computer choice for us. So we've got the user choice. Now what we want to do is let's just basically call or invoke the generate computer choice, just to make sure that when we click on the button, we're calling our function, and right now the function does nothing. So if I save and refresh, if I go like that, we see the user choice is now rock, and we've called or invoked the computer choice function. But so far, it doesn't have the functionality to generate a choice, so that's not good. So what we want to do is we want to generate a computer choice, okay? So uncomment out the computer choice, sorry, that's spelled wrong. I apologize. Okay, so now we have let computer choice be equal to, and we're going to assign that the value of the function generate computer choice, okay? Now, what we want to do here is generate a computer choice. So how we're going to do this as follows. We're going to create a random number. We use mat.random to get a number between 1 and 3. If the computer generates a 1, we'll say the computer choice was rock. If we get back a 2, if we return a 2, we're going to say the computer choice was paper. Otherwise, it'll be scissors, okay? So that's what we're going to do in this tutorial. In this function, sorry. And in the tutorial, I guess. So what we'll do is we'll say let, and first of all, we're going to create a random number. So we'll say let random number be equal to, and we'll say mat.random. So basically, we know what objects have inbuilt methods. So we're using the inbuilt mat object in JavaScript and accessing the random method. That would generate a random number between 0 and just under 1. So 9999 continuous, okay? So what we want to do is, let's multiply that by 3, okay? So we'll get a number between 0 and, just under 3. But what we can do is throw everything away after the decimal place. So if I pass in mat.random to mat.floor, or I wrap mat.random times 3 into mat.floor, because we're throwing everything away after the decimal place, we're going to get a number 0, 1, or 2. But we want to get a number between 1 and 3. So all we need to do is just add 1 to the end of that. So now we're going to get a number between 1 and 3, okay? So now what we can do is we can do a check to see what the random number was. So we can say if random number is strictly equal to 1, then what we want to do is we want to return rock, okay? And I'm going to use an exclamation mark there for rock because that's what we did for the buttons. They're rock, paper, scissors, okay? Then what we'll do is we'll say else if the random number is strictly equal to 2, we're just going to return scissors with the exclamation mark, sorry, paper rock, paper, scissors. I will stop the recording soon and I'll go get a coffee. Else, what we want to do is we just want to basically return scissors, okay? Or, you know, we could just say, yeah, no, anything else, it'll be like, you know, return scissors. Okay, so rock, paper, scissors. You know what? I just feel more comfortable if you do an else if. And what we'll do is just say random number is equal to 2. Sorry, 3. 1, 2, 3. So 1 is rock, 2 is paper, 3 is scissors. And then else, you know, just log out of the console. System user not selected. No selection. Okay? Okay. So basically, the logic is set up. It'll only be 1, 2, or 3. So this function will really always just return rock, paper, scissors. Okay? So now if we save and refresh, okay, what we want to do is, so we have the computer choice. So what I want to do is after, so we've got the computer choice, generate computer choice. So no need to call that function again. So what we're going to do now is we're going to const.logout the user choice is user choice and computer choice is now going to be, sorry, comma, that computer choice variable. So let me just save and refresh, show you what I've done. So now what we have is we have rock, paper, scissors. If we click rock, the user choice is rock and the computer choice is paper. If I click paper, we see user choice is paper, computer choice was scissors. And if I click on scissors, we get computer choice is rock. So the computer has actually chosen paper, scissors, rock, and we've done rock, paper, scissors. So the computer has successfully selected each one. Okay, awesome. So I'm going to leave that tutorial for there. And then what we'll do in the next tutorial is we'll override the value of the player choice depending on whatever I select, the computer choice, whatever the computer selects. Then we'll do a comparison to see who won, and then just override the value here just to say who won. So really quick recap, what we did in that tutorial was we got various elements from the document object model and stored them in variables so we could add an event listener. When the user clicks on a button, on the buttons we've added this for each, and we've said for each button we want to add an event listener. So we said button.add event listener. We're listening out for a user click. Then we run this anonymous arrow function, and all we do is we just let the user choice, that variable, be equal to the text content of whatever button the user selected. So for example, if we select rock, we're basically setting the value of the user choice variable to be rock, i.e. Of whatever button was selected. Okay, so we're setting the value of the user choice variable. Here what we're doing is we're actually setting the value of the computer choice variable, okay? And how we do that is, while we're listening out for the user click to decide what the user selected, let computer choice is equal to this function. So we're actually storing inside of a variable whatever the outcome was of this generate computer choice function. So what we do is we come up here, we have our function generate computer choice. We basically say mat.random times 3. We floor it, so throw everything away after the decimal place, and then add 1 to the end. That gives us a number, 1, 2, 3. We store it in the variable random number. Then we do a check. So if the number was 1, we basically decide the computer chose rock. If it was 2, the computer chose paper. And if it was 3, the computer chose scissors. Then I just have an else here. Probably shouldn't have that because that code is really never going to run. So that's probably not the best practice on my part. I do apologize. And then what we do is, after we've gotten the user choice based on the user selecting a button and the computer choice based on this function returning a string of rock, paper, scissors. Oh, let's do an exclamation mark there. Good spot. Then we just log out to the console. The user choice was the user choice variable and the computer choice was computer choice variable. So we've done most of the logic now set up. We just need to override the value of these pieces of text here and then just have some logic using an if statement to see who won the game. So we've actually coded up a lot of this game at this point over the last 2 tutorials. Okay, I'll end this tutorial here and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. See if you can finish the game yourself, but if not, I'll see you in the next tutorial. Awesome.